So now that we've integrated videos into the Dash Media Player, I think another really important topic that we need to talk about is how do we handle images within this media player. Most of you have already noticed that we're using the exact same image for not only the playlist, but also the preview region. In the world of web, this isn't really good because this image could actually be a very large file, and for every single one of these teasers inside the playlist, it would have to load that large file for every single one. A much better design would be to dynamically resize these images on the back end and then load that correct image inside the playlist. And also the same thing for the preview region. In this tutorial, we are going to talk about image handling in the Dash Media Player using a very new module that I wrote, which is the dashPlayer ImageCache Plugin, which plugs into a very popular module called ImageCache in Drupal, which does back-end conversions on the fly. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to open up a new tab here, and we're going to need to go to drupal.org, and we're going to need to download some modules. The first one that we're going to download is going to be called the image field module. Let me just zoom in here so you can see that. The image field module is going to be used in CCK so that we can add new images and so that we can manipulate those images using the ImageCache module. So let's go ahead and just download that. It's much like the file field, except that it adds some more different functionality specifically for images. The next module that we're going to need to get is called the ImageCache module. Like I said before, this module is a really great module that does back-end conversions on the fly. It does a lot of image manipulation. We'll go ahead and download that. And the very last module that we're going to need to get is called the Image API module. You can do that by just clicking on the link here on the ImageCache module page. Or if you'd like to see the title URL, it's just drupal.org project image API. So let's go ahead and download this as well. So now that we have those three modules, let's go ahead and install them. So I'm just going to open up my directory here, screencasts, my sites folder, all modules, and then what I'm going to do is just drag and drop if I can grab a hold of them. I'm just going to drag and drop those inside my modules folder. So let's go ahead and install those. I go to administer and then I go to modules. Okay, so let's just scroll down and enable these modules one by one. The first one being image field, which is in the CCK region. So we're going to image field. Then what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down, and then we're going to enable the image API. This is the important one that we need to enable. And then we're going to do the image API GD2. This is PHP's built-in image processing support. And then of course we're going to enable ImageCache and then the ImageCache UI. There's also one other really important module that we're going to need to download, and this is the new module that I was describing, that is the dashPlayer integration for the ImageCache module. You will have to download the latest version, which at this moment is version 1.7, but this module is new with version 1.7, so also need to make sure that you download the latest. If you don't see it, then that is why. So now that we have those four installed, let's just scroll down to the bottom and then hit Save Configuration. And we're just going to give this just a little bit of a second. Okay, so now that this is finished installing, the very first thing that we're going to need to do is set up our image cache. We do that by clicking on Administer, and then we're going to click on the image cache. Now, like I said before, the image cache basically works by just adding new presets. And what a preset is just a image manipulation preset that you can add. So you can add a preset for thumbnails, you can add a preset for the preview section, and then you can have that preset scale the original image according to what you provide in the presets. The first one we're going to do is the image thumbnail. So let's just click on Add New Preset. And we're just going to call this image thumb. This is going to be the thumbnail image, and they're just going to say create new preset. This is going to give us a list of options of all these different actions that we can put on our image. This is another really cool thing about ImageCache, is because as you can see, there's a lot of different presets that we can choose here. We can crop the image, we can desaturate the image, we can resize it, we can rotate, scale and crop, and even sharpen the image. But the one that we're going to be interested in is called scale. Now I know a lot of people say, well, what about resize? Well, the difference between resize and scale is that scale keeps the original aspect ratio of the image, whereas resize will stretch it to fit those dimensions. So let's hit scale. Now since this isn't a thumbnail, we're just going to make this pretty small. I typically like to do 100 by 100, and those are pixels. So let's just click Add Action. And as you can see, the preview just resized it just to show you what you did, and that looks about right, 100 by 100. Let's click on Update Preset. Okay, so now let's go back to the image cache. We're going to do that by clicking on our breadcrumb up here. And so let's add a new preset for the preview. We're going to call this image underscore preview. And then we're going to click on Create New Preset. Now for the preview, we're going to still want to scale the image, but we're going to want to make sure that it's scaled a little bit larger than the thumbnail. Let's do 640 by 640. Also keep in mind that if the image is not square, you notice that I always provide the same width and height. Well, because we're scaling and not resizing, this isn't a problem, because it's just going to pick whichever one is the biggest one. So if the image is tall, it's going to limit the height and then make the width a little bit smaller. Let's go ahead and add action. And there we go. There's the scaled image. That looks about right. And we're going to say Update Preset. Okay, so now let's click back on ImageCache. So now we should have an image preview and an image thumb. Let's go back to our video node type and just enable this functionality for the thumbnails that we added to the video node type. We're going to do that by clicking on Administer, and then we're just going to click on Content Types, and then we're going to click on Manage Fields for Video. Now the one thing that I'm going to be interested in is this video thumbnail, which currently is a file field. But what I want to do is I want to change that to an image field so that we can utilize that dashPlayer ImageCache plugin that selects one of those presets for both the thumbnail or the preview. So let's click on Configure on the file field. Now the first thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to change this widget type from file upload to the image field. We have to click on this Change Basic Information to do that. Excuse me. And so within the widget type, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we select image. Basically what this is doing is this is making it an image field, the image field CCK plugin that we just installed, versus the file field, which is file upload. So let's go ahead and click on image field. And then we'll click on continue. Now the first thing that you're going to see whenever we do that is there's a new section that pops up here. This is what the Dash Media Player ImageCache module does, is it presents us with these different presets that we can set for not only the node but also the thumbnail of the media player. This is pretty intuitive. All we have to do is select which ImageCache preset we want to use for the node and which ImageCache preset we want to use for the thumbnail. So let's click on this one right here and select Preview for the node and then Thumb for the thumbnail. What's really cool about this is it's going to dynamically resize those images and use those images instead of the large image that we originally uploaded. And so that's pretty much the only thing that we need to do. Now we can just go down to the very bottom and hit Save Field Settings. Now keep in mind that if ever you create a new file field that you want to use or a new image field, all you have to do is just give your field a name, give it an ID, then you're going to select File, and then over in the widget you're going to make sure you select Image. That's if you want to create a new file field or new image field that enables this functionality. So now that we have this saved, we can go back to our original video content and make sure that we have the image is still uploaded. So let's go to Kung Fu Panda and we click on Edit, and sure enough, there's the video thumbnail. And as you can see, it now adds a preview. This is one thing that the image field does, is it adds a preview to each of the, whenever you're uploading the thumbnails. That looks about right, so let's just click on Save. Now, if we go back to the media playlist, you're going to want to notice one major thing different, and that is that the image looks a little bit grainier, and that's because it is loading the smaller size image. And also the good news here is that now the thumbnails are loading the thumbnail preset. So these images within here are loaded as 100 pixels by 100 pixels, so they're all going to be really, really small. This is going to be able to streamline your media player and also make it so that you don't take up so much bandwidth on your site. So that is the image integration, the image cache integration into the Dash Media Player.